The apocalypse erupted, and from dying on the streets to reincarnation, Feng originally wanted to lie flat and develop, but reality did not allow it, and he could only barely pave the way. What if there are no materials? There is a pile of ruins in front of me. I waved my palm over the ruins and they turned into blocks of materials, including soil, cement, iron, copper, and wood. I'll go. This is not a superpower, it's just asking me to be God. Zombies. The apocalypse. My land breeze is here. Chapter 1. Restarting Life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. My ex-girlfriend, who had been out of touch for many years, suddenly called to try to reconnect with Feng. The reason is that he won a 1 billion yuan prize last month. Since then, Feng, who usually has little contact except for mobile customer service and phone bills, suddenly became busy. One phone after another, some elementary school classmates he didn't even remember called. Feng, who hung up the phone, sneered. It was precisely because of the betrayal of this white lotus flower that he died on the street in his past life. And how could he possibly make the same mistake again after being reborn in this lifetime? Feng looked up at the apartment he rented, which was as rudimentary as in his past life, with simple decoration, cheap anti-theft doors, and a small outdoor balcony. The only advantage is that there is a small mountain behind the balcony, which is home to many small wild animals. And the distance from the balcony to the back mountain is only over 1 meter high. It was precisely because of this advantage in the past life that Feng was able to survive in the resource-scarce post-apocalypse by setting traps and hunting for 2 years, until it was assassinated by Pan Jing, a white lotus flower. Bang! 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 Just as Feng was pondering, a rhythmic impact suddenly came from the next door. The disharmonious voices of men and women interrupted his thoughts, but also reminded him that this place was not suitable for survival in the upcoming apocalypse. He needed a stronger and safer place to smoothly pass through the early stages of the apocalypse. Feng bought lottery tickets based on his past life memories, so now he has a certain amount of financial resources in his hands. Money is basically not as good as waste paper in the end of the world, but now it is the undisputed source of all evil. Oh no! It's not asking for anyone in everything. As soon as I thought of it, I came to the outskirts of the city as a land breeze. This is a group of villas and a legendary wealthy area. I want the villa near the river. Feng directly threw out his bank card with millions of assets, almost kneeling down for those lackluster salespeople. 15 days before the end of the world, the whole world will fall into a rainstorm for several consecutive days. When the rainstorm ends, all creatures in the world will undergo abnormal changes. The largest group of abnormal creatures is called zombie. The zombies also appeared with the end of the rainstorm. They were in piles or thousands of groups. Ordinary buildings must not be able to survive in that horrible environment, so villas still need to be rebuilt. Feng first strengthened the exterior structure of the villa, with expensive alloys used for walls, doors, and windows. This can both defend against zombies and withstand high temperatures in the apocalypse. Most importantly, it is sturdy, and even small explosions cannot destroy the walls. The reinforcement of external walls should not be careless, and the use of geographical location is also an indispensable survival rule in the apocalypse. That's also why Landwind chose this villa by the river. It is surrounded by water on 3 sides like a mini peninsula, so just build a wall in front of the villa to build a defensive fortification. The remaining space is a safe front and backyard, leaving a large buffer zone for easy defense and retreat. The location around the water can also be used as a swimming pool and a small shipyard, which not only allows for leisure and fitness during leisure time, but also serves as an escape route in case of emergencies. Moreover, water is still a clean energy source, and energy is even more precious than gold in the apocalypse, especially electricity. In the past, Landwind has seen many people die in the darkness of the apocalypse. Due to the deep shadows of the apocalypse, Landwind directly bought 100 small hydroelectric generators and 10 large diesel generators. As a precaution, he also bought 50 high-power batteries as backup. After the electricity was connected, Landwind ran through almost all the gas stations in the city with the aim of filling up his newly built 2 oil storage tanks. Gasoline and diesel were also essential resources for survival in the apocalypse. It's just that buying so many flammable and explosive materials privately is sure to attract attention, so he bought them separately from different gas stations. Even so, he couldn't help but give big gift packages to some functional departments. Anyway, in the post-apocalyptic world, the role of money is almost zero, and there is not even paper and bricks to prove it. Therefore, Feng is not worried about it. To the public, he only says that if he wins, he will go out on a private yacht. In the envy, jealousy, and hatred of others, Feng left gracefully, leaving behind only a group of cursed voices behind, such as the damn nouveau riche, the wealthy second generation burned by money, and so on. Feng ignored these boring voices. He believed that in the post-apocalyptic world, those who were jealous of others would not survive, and even if they could survive, the chances of meeting would be very slim. The rest is to purchase some electronic devices. In the apocalypse, there are no leisure activities such as tourism and shopping in normal society. Electronic devices are the best choice to relieve stress. When did he have the opportunity to play these games in his past life to make up for his childhood and adulthood? He bought all the best-selling game consoles and brands he could buy. When passing by XX home, I even packed all my clothes. Following the concept of prioritizing the wealthy, the salesperson almost packed myself and sent it over. Finally, Feng came to the largest supermarket in the city. The most important thing here was the materials. How many people were crazy about food in the end of the world? Stealing was no longer a concern. It was common to fight each other for a mantu. Some even started to eat the same kind of food. Thinking of this, Feng waved his hand and emptied the warehouse of the supermarket, which frightened the supermarket manager to almost make a promise to Feng. Looking at the supermarket manager, Feng felt a chill in his eyes. He quickly went home and looked at a certain teacher 10 times before stabilizing his mind. When all the food was loaded into the underground warehouse of the villa, Feng was also tired and fell asleep. When he woke up again, it was already noon the next day. At this moment, the doorbell rang and through the pre-installed hidden camera, 2 young girls dressed in seductive attire were seen standing outside the door. Feng immediately became alert. He had been alone in W City since childhood and had no friends. The only few remaining acquaintances were not in this city. The end of the world was only 3 days away from now, and the goods in his family were even more precious than gold in the end of the world. If others saw him, it would undoubtedly bring unnecessary trouble. It is not difficult to guess from their attire that the 2 girls are engaged in some kind of human body art research work. This is a villa complex, and it is difficult for outsiders to enter and exit unless someone allows it. Moreover, wealthy people like this, perhaps they knocked on the wrong door. Feng, who knows how to keep his wealth hidden, chose to remain silent, making the other party think that it was best to leave without anyone at home. As expected by Feng, the 2 girls knocked for a few minutes before impatiently picking up their phones and sending messages. Feng only heard a few complaints, and soon a black car came and picked them up. Although the 2 did not continue to entangle, Feng did not relax his vigilance. Their appearance also reminded Feng to not only store supplies but also obtain weapons. It was precisely because he suffered from the disadvantage of not being able to use weapons in his past life that he was forced to go out in the post-apocalypse due to hunger and cold. Weapons can satisfy hunger by hunting, and the meat of animals in the apocalypse is also the only food source that has not been contaminated by viruses. However, after the outbreak of the apocalypse, their body size has increased by dozens of times, so it is difficult to hunt with ordinary tools. More importantly, weapons can defend oneself. In the apocalypse, the most dangerous thing is not only zombies, but sometimes even the same kind is more dangerous than zombies. However, the end of the world has not yet erupted, and it is too difficult for him to obtain hot weapons. He cannot go to rob the army or police station, so even if the end of the world has not yet arrived, he may have died on the spot. The only advantage of Lu Feng now is his advanced memory. Based on his experience in the apocalypse and the materials available now, he has made 3 short crossbows himself. In fact, according to the principle of its firing, it is more appropriate to call it a slingshot, specifically a more advanced slingshot, similar to the style of a crossbow. Due to the fact that the physical version of the crossbow has become a prohibited dangerous weapon for sale, Landwind can only temporarily use homemade ones. Although its power cannot be compared to real weapons, Lu Feng measured the range of the short crossbow shooting, which is about 20 meters. Standing on the wall in the front yard of the villa, shooting outwards also has a considerable killing power. Lu Feng is not a villain. There are no rules in the apocalypse, and living requires strength. If you want to survive and be a good person, there will be no bones left. After finishing these tasks, Lu Feng looked at the time and realized that there was still one last day before the end of the world erupted. He took a shower in the bathroom, changed into clean clothes, and casually cooked some steak for dinner. In his past life, Lu Feng couldn't even think of this kind of food, and even smelling it was a luxurious fantasy. But now he has 3 whole freezer rooms for meat. After dinner, Lu Feng sat in the living room of several tens of square meters, opened a selected limited edition game, and picked up the controller to play. Lu Feng decided not to go out from today on because if something happened, he wouldn't be able to come back. Even though there were 2 off-road vehicles parked in the underground garage of the villa, he didn't have the confidence to gallop back on the zombie-covered streets of the apocalypse, and the key was to risk getting infected. Sitting in a villa like a fortress, drinking beer and playing games, waiting comfortably for the end of the world, what is the need for such a life? Ringing bells. Suddenly, a ringtone on his phone interrupted Lu Feng's contentment, and he glanced at the caller ID on his phone. Pan Jing. After a moment of thought, Lu Feng frowned and finally answered the phone. Sure enough, the wind blew 10 miles away from the fox, and the mouse cried and the cat had no good intentions. Pan Qian wanted to be with Lu Feng again because he had been dumped by a scumbag. At this moment, she was crying loudly at the entrance of his rented apartment. Lu Feng casually said, "I'm not at home right now. Do you have anything to do with me?" Pan Jing was stunned by her calm tone. She didn't expect a licking dog who was always obedient to her, even after breaking up, would suddenly wake up. In the gap when Pan Jing was stunned, another person's voice came from the other end of the phone. Although the other person restrained their tone and lowered it, Lu Feng still heard it. The general idea is, did that kid say where he was? When will you be back? I don't know when I'll be free, it could be next week or next year. Lu Feng briefly answered Pan Jing's question and then hung up the phone. He was sure to recover the revenge from his previous life, but it's not now. At this moment, the 100-inch LCD TV in the living room is broadcasting the weather, saying that the next few days will have clear skies for thousands of miles, making it the best time to go out and play. However, only Lu Feng knew that an unpredictable rainstorm suddenly swept across the world, and the human world fell in a very short time. Today is the day of the outbreak of the apocalypse. In the morning, the land breeze came to the outer wall. The wall was built on the south side of the villa courtyard, with a height of about 6 meters and a width of 3 meters. Steel plates and alloy plates were also installed inside the wall. Such a high standard wall doesn't seem like building a civilian facility, especially with a row of barbed wire standing on the periphery of the wall, making the art style here more like a prison. Lu Feng still remembers that the construction workers who built this place were all sneering, as if he didn't know how afraid he was of robbery, with an expression that even wealthy people were afraid of death. But these people didn't know that even this kind of defense, Lu Feng, felt that it was not enough. It was just the highest level he could build. If it were further strengthened, it might really catch the attention of others. After all, Lu Feng also understood the principle of the wind shining in the forest, especially in the upcoming apocalypse. With a roar, Lu Feng lifted his head. The sky, which had just been clear for thousands of miles, suddenly thundered loudly, and the wind blew. The temperature also dropped accordingly. Lu Feng knew it was almost time, so he casually connected the high-voltage electricity to the wire mesh on the wall and closed all entrances and exits inside and outside the villa. The torrential rain came as expected. Everyone had never seen such a heavy rainstorm, and their eyes were blurred. They only heard the sound of rain washing the ground. Standing in front of the window, Lu Feng looked at the city in the distance. Due to the high terrain of the villa, he could almost see half of the city at a glance. The lights in the dimly lit city also lit up, but soon some floors began to flicker continuously, and some even caught fire or exploded. It's starting. It is the riot before the outbreak of the apocalypse, known as the Great Explosion in history. Humans infected by unknown substances in the rainstorm were the first to mutate, that is, zombies. Those who were not infected in the city became the first target of attack. The media's response was still quick. They urged everyone not to go out unless necessary, lock doors and windows, disinfect in a timely manner if attacked, and call the police to wait for rescue. However, Lu Feng did not take it seriously, and everyone did not realize the terrifying extent of this disaster. If he could wait for rescue in his past life, he wouldn't have been trapped in his room for so long until he was finally thrown on the street and bitten alive by zombies without waiting for rescue. And the most ignorant thing is disinfection. As far as he knows, any disinfection measure cannot kill the zombie virus. The zombie virus spreads through contact, initially from streets and houses, then to hospitals, police stations, government departments, and finally to the entire city losing control and falling. Lu Feng closed the last window and began preparing lunch. With his past life experiences, he was already indifferent to what was happening outside. After being reborn, he understood a truth. Living for oneself is the most important thing. The conclusion is that if people don't do it for themselves, heaven will punish the earth. Chapter 2. The Patriarch of the Old Six. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dee, just as he was about to start enjoying lunch, the alarm suddenly rang. Lu Feng grabbed the short crossbow at hand and hurriedly arrived at the monitoring room. This was a room he had specially designed, where he could see every corner outside the villa without leaving home. Under surveillance, there is an SUV colliding with the gate of the fence. The camera is blocked by the rainstorm. Lu Feng can't see the license plate of the other side clearly. Is it the survivors outside or the residents in the villa area? Lu Feng has not gone out, and he does not want to take the risk of infection. The virus in the rainwater only infects and mutates when it comes into contact with humans. The virus has a characteristic that there is a limit to its survival time in rainwater, so even if it goes out, it needs to be after the rain stops. Moreover, I have great confidence in the strength of the fence gate, as it would be unreasonable for a gate that costs millions of dollars to be easily knocked open. Moreover, Lu Feng was a full-process supervisor and commander. Afterwards, he even tested it with a 100-ton engineering vehicle and surprisingly was able to withstand it. That's 50 centimeters thick with a double-layer alloy door, not to mention cars, even small artillery fire, and even armored vehicles may not be able to break through. Sure enough, after a series of fierce impacts, the front door remained motionless, while the front of the SUV and the front hood had already deformed. The front of the car was like a chimney, emitting thick smoke. Then Lu Feng saw the car door open and a figure jumped out of the driver's seat. The man rushed to the gate of the wall under the rainstorm, and first raised his head to look for the camera. However, he was disappointed. Landwind's cameras were hidden inside the wall and could not be seen without knowing their location. Open the door. Open the door. I know you can hear me inside, and I am also from this community. I have been observing you for a long time, and you have built so many defense facilities. Now that there is a crisis outside, the community is not allowed to enter or exit. I am starving to death and injured. Please let me in, and the chance of survival will be higher with more people. The door was blocked by a lot of rain, and Lu Feng finally saw the other person's appearance clearly. He was a man in his 40s, wearing glasses and a face full of anxiety. I'm not buying it, you terrible old man is very bad. Lu Feng's expression remained indifferent, knowing that the man outside the door would definitely not survive. The man has already been soaked in the rain, and zombie transformation is just a matter of time. The presence of zombie viruses in the rain is unknown even to the media and government in the early stages of the apocalypse. Lu Feng also guessed through his past life hiding in a room and observing for a few days, and of course, it was later verified from other survivors. Bang bang. Quickly, the man's emotions became even more manic, and he began pounding the door fiercely. His hands also changed from tapping to scratching, and he didn't stop until his nails were broken and flesh was blurry. The man outside stopped shouting, and when he looked up again, his pupils had turned grayish-white. A row of sharp teeth protruded from the cracked corners of the mouth, and black liquid was seeping out from the corners of the mouth. Seeing that the other party had turned into a corpse, Lu Feng slowly lit a cigarette. He didn't know how many times he had watched this scene in his past life, it just became increasingly indifferent. In the next few days, Lu Yu stayed at home waiting for the end of the rainstorm. During this period, the air defense alarm sounded countless times, and the strange man who had mutated into a zombie outside the wall had long disappeared. In the apocalypse, sound is also prone to attracting zombies, so absolute silence is also a necessary condition for survival. The air defense alerts, which were originally intended to alert, had the opposite effect, reactivating many zombies that had already fallen into a silent state. The rainstorm lasted for 8 days. When Lu Feng walked out of the villa, there was still a strong smell in the air. I don't know what the reason for the land breeze is. Someone may have already studied it in a previous life, but what does that matter? By then, humans had already lost 90% or even more. At night, Lu Feng lay in bed pondering what to do next. There was no shortage of food for the time being, as he had the entire warehouse's food storage. There is still a lot of drinking water that can be used for 2 years without any problem, but water can also be used up one day. If you plan to use it in the long run, it is still the safest to produce water yourself. He bought 10 sets of large water purification equipment and thousands of filter cartridges before, but the water source became a problem. Although there is a river behind the villa, it is difficult to ensure the safety of the river. If a zombie falls into it, drinking it again would be equivalent to chronic suicide. The rainstorm in the end of life basically has zombie virus, but the virus survives for a short time, and will die completely within a few hours. As long as it is left to stand for 24 hours, it can be used. Landwind is not worried about drinking water, it can only be used as bathing water. Lu Feng personally tested it in his past life and did not turn into a corpse until the moment of death, so he decided to use the method of collecting rainwater to store domestic water. In this way, his stored drinking water can be saved from being wasted on toiletries. Fortunately, he had foresight. As early as the time of rebuilding the villa, he built a reservoir, but he did not open the reservoir for fear of being polluted by the early rainstorm. Dee. Lu Feng glanced at the alarm at hand, and the red light of the alarm lit up again. This was the 3rd time in the past few days. He turned off the alarm and returned to the monitoring room. Everything remained normal without any abnormalities. Is it that the alarm is malfunctioning? Just as he was thinking about it, a figure suddenly appeared in the corner for Lu Feng to turn the camera and look over. Under the night vision function, nothing can escape, only a figure crouching outside the wall of his villa at a distance of more than 10 meters, holding a telescope to look at him. When Lu Feng saw the shape of the telescope clearly, his heart sank. How could the other party have such a device? At night, due to obstructed vision, no one would use a telescope to observe. Moreover, Lu Feng has already closed all the doors and windows in the villa, which means that without any light source, it is generally impossible to see unless the other party's telescope has thermal imaging function. The walls of the villa are covered with a layer of alloy plates, so it is impossible to see through the walls. At this point, the camera suddenly blurs out. Lu Fengxin said, "Did the other party find the hidden camera?" Then he looked at the other cameras, and almost all cameras except indoor and outdoor ones were in this situation. After thinking for a moment, Lu Feng suddenly realized that it was caused by the temperature. After the rainstorm, the end of the world broke out, and the outdoor temperature also dropped, so the camera was blurred. It is precisely because of this that the temperature difference between indoors and outdoors can also change, and even the temperature of a villa separated by alloy plates will be slightly higher than the surrounding area. On the second day of the rainstorm, Lu Feng turned on the heating in the room, which was a necessary equipment to meet the end of the world. But it must be too late to turn off the heating now. Lu Feng frowned and could only wait, to see what the other party really wanted to do. At this moment, the other party touched their ears and Lu Feng exclaimed that it was not good. As expected, the other party was not alone, he must be carrying electronic devices such as walkie-talkies or mobile phones. Touching his ears was calling someone else. In no time, a sedan appeared in front of Landwin's villa, and due to its blurriness, he couldn't see clearly what model of sedan it was. The car did not park in front of his door, but rather in a location that is not usually visible from a camera. But the camera of the Landwind device has no blind spots in all directions, and those few people may not have thought that the owner of the villa is an old sixth ancestor, and as long as you are around the villa, you cannot escape the surveillance of the camera. Chapter 3. The Eye of God. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, 2 people got off the car, along with the person monitoring him, totaling 3 people. The 3 of them secretly approached Lu Feng's villa, holding some ropes and unclear equipment in their hands. When they reached the foot of the villa wall, the 3 of them stopped and began to discuss quietly. They turned out to have come to the villa area to rob, but they didn't expect the end of the world to break out, so the 3 of them became even more reckless. Even the middle-aged man at the front door was injured by them and escaped to the outside of the fence, where he was infected and mutated. The 3 of them chased after Lu Feng's villa, and after careful observation for a few days, they felt that Lu Feng's villa was a fortress in the apocalypse. Therefore, they decided to infiltrate and occupy the villa. They thought that the gods and ghosts were unaware, but little did they know that their every move was already under the surveillance of Lu Feng. The 3 of them tried their best to climb up the wall, but there was no way to pass from both sides because there were cliffs on both sides and the turbulent river below them. Let's not say if they could bypass the wall, even if they did, they would still risk falling off the cliff or the river. While the 3 of them were relaxing their guard and hesitating about what to do, the noise they made while climbing the wall attracted the surrounding zombies. By the time they realized it, the zombies had already caught one of them and started biting. The howl attracted more zombies, causing more zombies to gather. In the end, only one person ran away, and Lu Feng looked coldly at the direction of the person's escape. Even if he could escape from here, it was even more terrifying in the city than here. Lu Feng did not expect that his villa would be watched by others on the first day after the rainstorm ended. Although it did not cause any damage, it also reminded him not to relax his vigilance. In the morning, Lu Feng arrived on the wall, covered in limbs and broken arms. In the distance, zombies kept gathering towards him, and as the number of zombies increased, a strong stench filled Lu Feng's nose. The zombies seemed to have sensed Lu Feng, waving their arms at him and watching the mechanical movements of the zombies. Lu Feng knew that the zombies were still in their early stages, and once they fully evolved, they wouldn't look as silly as before. Lu Feng took off the short crossbow behind him and first dealt with the zombies in front of the door, leaving them in front of his villa, which would be a constant worry. With the rapid shooting of the bow and crossbow, an additional arrow was added to the arm of the zombie on the opposite side, and the arrow was firmly nailed to the zombie's arm. The accuracy and penetration power are not very satisfactory for land wind. Indeed, homemade weapons are not as powerful as manual bows, and the only key point of zombies is their head. If they fail to hit, it is a waste of time and arrows. After wasting more than 10 arrows in a row, Lu Feng finally shot a zombie's head, and the arrow passed through the zombie's left eye and directly inserted into its head. Before Lu Feng could recover from the state of killing the zombies, a flash of light flashed before his eyes. The next moment, he appeared in a strange and empty room. Then a pleasant human voice rang out. Congratulations to the host for killing the first zombie and opening the post-apocalyptic cultivation system. This system will distribute tasks and reward you with rewards based on your environment, which will be distributed in the form of points. Integral. As soon as the word flashed through Lu Feng's mind, a page appeared with the end of World Cultivation System written at the top. Lu Feng's heart trembled a bit. Whether in his past or present life, he often longed to acquire some kind of superpower and then wipe out the enemies in the apocalypse in one fell swoop. Isn't this apocalyptic cultivation system exactly what he needs now? He suppressed the excitement and tension in his heart, trembling as he tapped into the system, and then saw the options of task and points jump out of his sight. The task currently shows killing the first zombie, and the task status is completed. Integral display shows remaining points 1. There are no exchangeable items available. Lu Feng is a bit unclear, so why do you have points but cannot exchange them? What's the use of this system if you can't exchange things? He was slightly disappointed and wanted to leave here, but found out he didn't know how to get out. Just then, a pop-up window popped up and asked Lu Feng if he had left the dimensional warehouse. Dimensional warehouse. Lu Feng's face was full of question marks. Did he not see any warehouse in the pop-up page? With doubts in his mind, he silently recited again what a dimensional warehouse is. The original dimensional warehouse was the room where Landwind was located, but it cannot store items yet because the warehouse has not been activated. Once activated, the dimensional warehouse can store items. Lu Feng sighed inwardly. No wonder it wasn't displayed in the pop-up window just now. It turned out that it hadn't been activated yet, but he finally found some comfort in his heart. In the apocalypse, he carried a warehouse that could be summoned at any time, which was even more powerful than opening cheats, but he didn't know the storage capacity and shelf life of this warehouse. I looked at the room under my feet and estimated it to be 20 square meters. It shouldn't be a problem to pack food and supplies for a month. However, when Lu Feng wanted to check the next task, the system replied in a pleasant voice that he had not received the task yet. He was unwilling to ask again about the items that could be exchanged for points, and the answer he received made him vomit blood. Please activate the dimensional warehouse first. With a belly full of doubts, Lu Feng exited the dimensional warehouse, just like its name warehouse seemed to be in another dimension. Lu Feng returned to reality and still stood on the wall. In order to verify that what he had just experienced was not a dream, he tried to summon the system, and a pop-up window popped up instantly. In addition to tasks and points, there was also an additional question about whether to enter the dimensional warehouse. After trying several times in a row, Lu Feng finally confirmed that what was happening now was true. However, fortunately, he was standing in a position obstructed by the wall, otherwise he might have been discovered by others if he had stood still on the wall for half a day. Just as Lu Feng was about to return to the villa to take a shower and calm down, the pleasant prompt sound of the system rang again. Task. Kill zombies. The task requires killing 6 zombies and receiving points rewards upon completion. Lu Feng smiled and realized that the task had arrived in time. He raised his crossbow and began shooting. He stood on the wall, relying on his geographical advantage, harvesting zombies like a leek. Perhaps due to practicing several times, the accuracy of Landwind's shooting has improved significantly, and it can kill a zombie within 3 rounds. The attack of the short crossbow was almost silent, but the zombies still noticed the land breeze standing on the wall and walked towards the bottom of the wall. This move hit Lu Feng's chest, and he made his own short crossbow with a range. He didn't even need to attract zombies and walked over on his own. In the end, he even exceeded the task. Congratulations to the host. The mission to kill zombies has been completed. Killing 9 animals earns 9 points, completing the task earns 1 point, remaining 11 points, and obtaining the skill Eye of God for over completing rewards. Used 1 times. Chapter 4. Are you trying to trick me into being cheated by Ga Yaozi? No way. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After watching the reward, Lu Feng almost fell off the wall. Completing the task earned less points than killing zombies. However, Lu Feng felt some comfort in his heart, at least letting him know that the points were obtained through the task, and he also rewarded a skill called God's Eye, although it was only used once. I just don't know what points can be exchanged for. If he could exchange any super equipment that would make him eliminate all the zombies directly, it would be too exciting. With a hint of excitement, Lu Feng rushed into the villa. The temperature will continue to drop for a few days after the outbreak. Lu Feng was just wearing an autumn outfit on the wall earlier, so he almost froze. After a hot bath, he finally recovered. Through the actual battle just now, Lu Feng discovered that although his homemade short crossbow also has killing power, its efficiency is really poor. The short distance has poor power, and the root cause is the range. When the range is increased, the power also increases. To do a good job, one must first sharpen their tools. At this time, the network was not disconnected, so Lu Feng opened the computer and tried to check how to strengthen the short crossbow. Before the end of the world, the topic of weapons like this was very sensitive on the internet, especially homemade weapons, which not only cannot be said but will also be approached by police officers. Now is the end of the world, and facing life and death, there are not so many concerns. Lu Feng just casually searched and immediately had a bunch of weapon-making plans, including many methods to strengthen bows and crossbows. But looking at Lu Feng, he began to feel a headache. He couldn't use many methods to strengthen the short crossbow, some were due to insufficient materials, some were too difficult to make, requiring precise calculations, and another person directly used a cutting machine. Not to mention that Lu Feng didn't purchase such large equipment, even if he bought it, he wouldn't use it. After searching for a long time, Landwind finally had to give up. It seems that the plan of relying on killing zombies to score points is currently not feasible. Tasks are also randomly distributed, and there is no other way but to silently wait. Who makes the system a big shot? Lu Feng did not achieve nothing either. Many survivors of the apocalypse left messages online, and even filmed videos. Most of them asked when the riots had passed, and there were many requests for help, but most of them asked if anyone had medicine and food. Some people have already started setting up survivor camps, with hundreds of them in W City, big or small. They all offer generous joining conditions, especially doctors, police officers, and military personnel, with priority given to those who possess survival skills. After seeing the recruitment information, Lu Feng remained calm in his heart. He had also seen these situations in his past life. Many recruiters were actually traps, and they just wanted to snatch food from survivors. Those with strong bodies were left as laborers, while those with weak bodies were thrown onto the streets to feed zombies. Most survivors are irrational. They are selfish, afraid of death, and have no human nature in the apocalypse. When someone gives them food, many people compete to sign up, and some are still complacent about being close to certain campsites. Of course, Lu Feng also understands that most survivors are also helpless. Not everyone has hoarded so much food and resource reserves like him, and sticking to them can only be a waste of time. Waiting on is also a dead end, and it's better to fight for it. Ding dong. Suddenly, a text message came up on his phone. According to Lu Feng's memory, the electricity in his previous life was cut off a month later, and he couldn't remember the exact time. He only remembered that the whole city was instantly plunged into darkness at that time. So at this time, although human greed has been exposed, at least there is still a hint of constraint, and there is still a certain relationship between land-wind speculation and electricity. Thinking about Lu Feng, he picked up his phone and as expected, the words Pan Qian came into view. It was already the second day of the outbreak of the apocalypse, and logically speaking, it was not the most difficult time yet. He was surprised that Pan Qian would call. Lu Feng pressed the answer button directly. "Hey. What's up?" Lu Feng's voice remained cold, and Pan Qian on the other end of the phone seemed to have not yet escaped from this contrast. She was stunned for 2 seconds before answering. "Hello. Lu Feng. There are zombies outside now, are you still safe at home? If not, come to our side. Someone has set up a survivor camp here, and the captain said that in the end of the world, everyone should unite. I heard that you are alone, so let me advise you to come over. I'm okay alone, I don't want to be disturbed by others. You said I don't need it. If it's okay, I'll hang up." Without hesitation, Lu Feng hung up the phone. "Survivor camp. Persuade me to go over. Unity." Upon hearing these words, Lu Feng had an impulse to hit someone. To put it nicely, it's for the sake of survivors. To put it harshly, it's a scam gang that tricked me into taking all the supplies from my body. If it's a woman, I'll keep it, and if it's a man working, I'll just throw away anything useless. Some are even more ruthless and can be locked up directly. As long as you don't starve, they can be used to lure zombies and become bait when searching for supplies. Are you trying to trick me into getting married? No way. Lu Feng sneered twice and threw away his phone, feeling a bit hungry. Today, killing zombies consumed a lot of energy, so he decided to eat something good. Go to the kitchen and take out the prepared pork from the refrigerator, cut it into half a centimeter thick, add fresh seasonal vegetables, and make a plate of delicious braised pork belly out of the pot. It is not an exaggeration to say that this ordinary food is delicious in the afterlife. Perhaps many families now have reserves, but after a month, many families will experience food depletion. He still remembers his past life. A month later, in cities without electricity support, human cries would occasionally come from time to time. Those are people who went out to search for food and were chased and bitten by zombies. After dinner, Lu Feng finished washing the dishes and did a simple cleaning. Now he is full of confidence in life, so even when facing the end of the world outside, he is not decadent. In the monitoring room, Landwind is checking the situation outside. Due to yesterday's incident, he is also not careless now and always vigilant of someone's surprise attack. Especially the person who ran away yesterday, intuitively judged that he would definitely come again, but I don't know where to hide in the corner for now. The safety facilities of the villa are designed by a senior design company hired by Landwind, and the installation team is also professional. For safety reasons, he also specially invited a team from outside the city. Regarding this point, it is to prevent the people in this city from thinking of anything and taking the opportunity to break in and blackmail them during the outbreak of the apocalypse. If it's a team from another city, then you can rest assured, because even if the other party can survive and leave the city, the chance of breaking through thousands of zombie pursuers and reaching this post-apocalyptic fortress thousands of miles away is simply zero. So the safety aspect is very comprehensive. As long as there is electricity, generally no one can break into the villa, making him worried that if the other party gathers a group of people, it will be a bit troublesome. Especially now that there is still communication. Chapter 5. Can't be a female driver. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On the third day of the outbreak of the apocalypse, Lu Feng woke up in the morning and came to the monitoring room with a freshly ground handmade coffee to check the situation outside. The chaos in the city continues, and the building that was burned yesterday is now only a skeleton. It is said that steel undergoes distortion and deformation during high-temperature baking, similar to the situation observed in September 11th, but the distant building did not collapse. Cars occasionally pass by on the street, and without any accidents, a group of zombies will follow behind, just like what I saw in my past life. At first, they were all in groups of 3 or 5, but later on, more and more people will be infected because more and more people will be infected. It's like a battle of survival of the fittest, but this one is bloody and short-lived. At most, for a week, the entire city will be surrounded by zombies until it completely turns into a dead city. The rainstorm in front seems to be a omen, which reminds Luyu of Noah's Arkansas. It rained for a long time before the world was flooded. Is this some kind of revelation? The revelation of God. Lu Feng suddenly thought of his post-apocalyptic cultivation system, may it also be some kind of inspiration. However, after completing the killing of zombies yesterday, the system seemed to have entered a dormant state and no more missions were released. Currently, his understanding of the system is basically blank. Bang! Just as he was lost in thought, suddenly there was a muffled noise coming from outside. Lu Feng's first thought was whether an explosion had occurred somewhere. He quickly put down the coffee in his hand and began manipulating the direction of the camera. When he turned the camera in the villa area, he saw a scene that surprised him. I saw a jeep crash into a flower bed on the roadside, which was about 80 centimeters high. I don't know how fast the car was driving, so I rode directly onto the flower bed. After the 4 wheels lifted off the ground, the people in the car didn't seem to realize they were stuck. Landwind saw that the rear wheels of the jeep were still spinning wildly, as if the driver's foot was directly welded to the accelerator. The huge roar of the engine attracted the surrounding zombies, even the zombies around the Landwind villa followed the sound and walked over. Ha! A mocking yet helpless smile appeared on Lu Feng's face. Isn't this a female driver? Judging from the zombie routes on the surrounding streets, within 5 minutes, the noise of the jeep will attract at least 30 zombies. In this situation, unless the people in the car are fully armed, the chances of survival are very slim. However, according to Chinese law, holding a gun is illegal, so the Landwind speculates that the people in the car will not survive for 10 minutes. This is still because zombies move slowly in the early post-apocalyptic period. If they wait for them to fully transform and move faster, the people in this car will also die faster. In no time, several nearby zombies had touched the body of the jeep, and one of them stopped at the front of the car. Lu Feng saw that the zombie had only hovered around the front of the car for a few laps, and then waved his stiff hands to scratch the front of the car. The slightly stiff movement looks like wanting to climb up the hood. The jeep was almost facing away from the wind, so he couldn't see clearly what was inside the car, but he could probably guess that the zombie must have seen the person inside the driver's cab, which was why it was so crazy. With the beating of the zombie in the front of the car, the already unstable jeep began to shake violently, almost seeing the terrifying and decaying face of the zombie from zero distance. Landwind could even feel how collapsed the people in the car were now. The skin on the several zombies behind the car has begun to peel off, and the exposed muscle tissue has also become pitch black. The smell of decay seemed to be visible through the camera, and Lu Feng suddenly lost his appetite as he watched a half-eaten black cake at hand. While lamenting that the fate of the few people on the jeep may come to an end, while admiring the final glory of their lives, Lu Feng is the witness. Thinking about it, he picked up the coffee in his hand and said to the camera, "Keep going. Dee dee." Just as Landwind bid them farewell, the driver of the jeep suddenly made an even more deadly gesture, honking his horn desperately. Lu Feng was first startled and then cursed loudly. Damn it! He ran quickly towards the corridor behind the second floor, and as he passed by the dining table, he picked up the telescope above and reached the corner of the corridor, pressing a hidden button in the corner of the wall. Bark! A slight snap sound sounded, and a rope fell from above. With a gentle pull from the land breeze, an aluminum alloy slide slowly slid down from above. He quickly climbed up the ladder, and as he stepped on the steps, his vision suddenly became clear. It turned out to be a place similar to an attic, which had been transformed into a 4-sided observation deck by the land breeze. He dare not get too close to the window to avoid being seen by people from elsewhere. Although the terrain here is almost the highest, it is difficult to guarantee that someone will not be noticed if they look here from a low position at this time. Coincidentally, the reflection of the telescope will be discovered, which will be even more troublesome. After confirming that his position was safe enough, he picked up a telescope and looked towards the direction of the villa gate. There were not many zombies in that position, and they were all wandering aimlessly. That is to say, they are not attracted by the noise of jeeps. If the zombies outside are attracted, it means that the villa area will eventually fall. Landwind doesn't want this area to fall yet, at least not so quickly. Damn it. You almost killed me. Lu Feng moved the telescope towards the jeep until the noisy horns and engine finally stopped, and there was only 1 minute left before his judgment. Suddenly, in the telescope, Lu Feng saw that the sunroof of the jeep was forcefully pulled open, with one hand reaching out from inside, and then a young man climbed out of the sunroof. This young man is very tall and quite strong. It seems that he often works out. If it weren't for the wide sunroof of this car, he might not have been able to climb out at all. Even so, he climbed for nearly 20 seconds before crossing the sunroof. After the young man got on the car roof, he pulled out 2 women from the skylight. When he saw the appearance of these 2 women, Lu Feng suddenly froze. Aren't these the 2 women who rang his doorbell before the end of the world broke out? Just as he thought there was no one left, another hand reached out from the skylight. Looking at his slender and tender arm, Lu Feng was a bit surprised. There was actually a woman left. No wonder now. With the accelerator pressed so hard and the horn honked so loudly, only a female driver could do it. But she is also about to pay for her foolish move, because the group of zombies gathered here is less than 50 steps away from them. The most crucial thing is that when Lu Feng saw the young man on the roof of the car, he began to hesitate. Even the most powerful human would inevitably hesitate when facing the choice of life and death. Chapter 6, Keep It All. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The distance between the roof of the jeep and the villa wall is about 1.5 meters. If the young man were to jump over directly, there would be no problem, but it would be difficult to handle with 3 women. After seeing someone come out, the zombies surrounding the car waved even crazier, their rotten faces and bodies like ghosts from hell, impacting the 4 people's vision. Although Lu Feng couldn't smell them, he seemed to be able to smell the strong stench through the screen. Ah! The roar of the zombie swarm came out from the microphone through a hidden camera. The roar was even more fierce and eerie than that of a wild beast, full of a eerie feeling that made people stand on end. Ah! A few women screamed and hugged the young man, crying uncontrollably and shouting something in their mouths. The young man, who was already unable to move, was even more unable to move now. Under the 4 twists and turns, the car shook violently and almost lost its balance, causing several women to scream. The zombies gathered more and more under their feet, and Lu Feng nodded at the sight. Yes. If you want to die, die together so that you can have a companion on the way. Just as Lu Feng was preparing to mourn for them, the young man suddenly grabbed one of the women and lifted her up. In her panicked expression, the young man threw the woman into the wall of the villa with one force. Next is the second, third. The 3 women temporarily escaped from the mortal world, but as time passed, more and more zombies began to gather. Under the temptation of human flesh, they became even crazier, desperately pushing and shoving the jeep. The jeep swayed like a solitary boat in the wind and rain, with the danger of capsizing at any moment. Lu Feng also pouted when he saw it. Sure enough, fitness is still useful. He really has some strength, but it's difficult to jump over if he's unstable on the ground. I saw the young man taking a step back from the roof of the car, accelerating and jumping up, possibly due to fear or exhaustion of energy. When he took off, he stumbled. It's a bit like a fitness enthusiast's young man falling straight into the wall of the villa without any bias, head-wrenching and falling into the wall. After a while, Lu Feng saw 3 women supporting the young man to stand up. Due to a wall separating them, the zombies who had lost their target were spinning in place. Lu Feng sighed. Although I was injured, fortunately, at least I fell into the wall. If it was outside the wall, life would be more difficult than death. Being bitten to death by a zombie is more than 10 times more painful than falling to death. Don't ask why, because he has tried. The four of them walked towards the villa with the joy of surviving the disaster. It seemed that the door of the villa was probably unlocked, and after a few people entered, they did not come out again. They thought it was temporarily safe, but they didn't know that it also planted a hidden danger. Unexpectedly, a Hollywood blockbuster came out of breakfast. Lu Feng returned to the surveillance room, ready to throw away the unfinished cake, but after thinking about it, he still stuffed it into his mouth. Just as he stood up, a reflection on the screen caught his attention. Putting down the coffee cup he had just picked up, Lu Feng locked his gaze on the left display screen, 2 rows away from him. The curtains on the second-floor back window of a villa exposed a gap, and the reflection just now was emitted from that gap. It seems that someone has set their sights on me. A playful smile curved around the corner of Lu Feng's mouth. In the afternoon, he spent a busy afternoon in the tool room. Taking advantage of the internet, he improved his equipment to some extent. Although it may not be professionally useful, at least killing zombies for self-protection is enough. The night is as cool as water, but in the hottest season of the year, the temperature at night feels like late autumn. The land breeze sits on the wall, and the 1.5-meter pile wall can just cover it. Looking out through the observation hole, most of the zombies are attracted by the good play in the morning. Now the road outside the wall is empty. The timed street lights lit up the dark villa area, and the brief light provided humanity with the last bit of comfort, but some people don't think so. After waiting for about half an hour, the street lights on the road in front of the villa flickered a few times and then fell into darkness. Finally here. Lu Feng straightened his waist, picked up the short crossbow leaning beside him, and raised it in front of him. Through the scope, he saw 5 figures moving. The 5 people who thought they were unaware of the gods and ghosts were still under the control of the land breeze. In the night vision system, the 5 people were like 5 white pigs in the darkness, shining brightly wherever they went. The other party may have thermal imaging equipment in their hands. Based on their previous experience, in order to avoid exposure, Lu Feng has prepared several ice packs around their body this time. After waiting for a long time, the other party didn't bring out any equipment to observe towards him, which made Lu Feng dumbfounded. Aren't they from the same group last time? But if it's not a group, why do you know to cut off the power first? There is high-voltage electricity on his wall, and he knows that it's the one who escaped from the last group of people who broke the electricity without any accidents. Perhaps we have found a helper again. Through the night vision system, I saw several people sneakily touching the bottom of the wall. This time, it seemed like they had learned how to be clever. Before going up the wall, they first used something to stretch out and measure it. Start climbing upwards only after confirming there is no electricity. Through the night vision system, Lu Feng saw them take out a device he had never seen before and put it on their hands, then began to climb up step by step. They were 5 people in total, 2 responsible for climbing, and the other 3 responsible for watching. When the 2 climbed to a position of 3 or 4 meters, Lu Feng did not hesitate to connect the high-voltage electricity on the wall. Zzz. Bang. A blue arc flashed past, and the 2 of them fell straight from the wall without even shouting, but when the high-voltage electricity struck, a muffled sound was still emitted. At night, this kind of sound is exceptionally harsh. Sure enough, the zombie in the distance was attracted, and the 3 people below had also noticed something was wrong, one of whom even cursed. Grass. It's cloudy, hurry up. Lu Feng sneered on the wall. Want to leave? No way. Let's all stay. He knows why these people came in and what they want to do. Last time, 1 escaped, but now 5 have arrived. If we let them go again this time, we may come back even more next time. Puff. The short crossbow let out a faint shooting sound, and in the next moment, it was nailed to the back of a person. Perhaps the accuracy was a bit off, but this strike did not kill the opponent. Ah! The person couldn't help but let out a mournful cry and lay on the ground in pain. However, the other two people saw that this situation not only did not come forward to help, but also turned around and ran faster. Lu Feng adjusted his breathing, quickly loaded a crossbow and arrow, aimed and fired. He didn't repair the knife, but only requested to be able to hit it. Puff. The second short crossbow was fired, but the accuracy seemed even worse this time, only hitting one person's leg. When he wanted to shoot again, the third person had already run out of shooting range. Chapter 7. Instant Face Strike. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Under the howl of sorrow, the zombies were all attracted, and the two people on the ground clearly knew the strength of the zombies. Ignoring the pain and panic, they climbed up and rushed to the left, driven by the desire to survive, leaving only two companions burnt under the wall, a pile of tools, and two intermittent bloodstains. Lu Feng let go of the fingers on the short crossbow and did not continue shooting. Under the night vision system, zombies appeared in groups outside the wall, dragging their stiff steps forward. As they approached the two corpses, the zombies, who had not been in a hurry just now, suddenly rushed forward as if they had gone crazy. The zombies were like hungry beasts, desperately tearing and biting. Through the night vision system, Lu Feng saw two corpses being directly opened and pierced. The zombies gathered together and quickly devoured the two corpses, with only fragmented internal organs on the periphery. Some zombies who haven't even received feces even lie on the ground licking the blood stains on them. Lu Feng, who has been reborn from the end of the world, knows that zombies do not have a sense of fullness. They have a near abnormal desire to devour humans, especially the smell of blood. They are extremely sensitive. As long as they smell it, they will be like wild beasts in spring, crazily pursuing it. Until you swallow the other person in your stomach. Unexpectedly, the zombies discovered bloodstains on the ground and chased them to the left along the bloodstains. Lu Feng watched everything coldly until all the zombies disappeared from sight. Looking out of the calm wall again, that's why he didn't shoot just now, otherwise how could the zombie be led away? Bang! The danger was lifted, and the land breeze was preparing to go back to sleep. A crisp impact shattered the calm night sky, followed by several beams of lights shining in the distance. Judging from the distance, it should be the villa where the jeep broke down during the day. Bada bada, accompanied by a flurry of footsteps, the lights began to sway in his direction. Lu Feng frowned, feeling both surprised and alert in his heart. Bang bang bang. A few people arrived outside the fence and began knocking on his door. Is there anyone? Open the door. Let's go in. A soft and tender voice sounded, accompanied by an irresistible desire. Soft girl. The first word that came to Lu Feng's mind was actually this. It's okay if he doesn't see this villa. If he did, he would definitely find it different from other villas. The walls alone make people feel special here, let alone the completely enclosed windows like fortresses. Perhaps this car didn't break down during the day, but came running towards him. Lu Feng raised his short crossbow and held his breath. In the night vision, he saw a figure, probably the survivors of the day, but he had no intention of letting a few people in. Bang bang bang. The knocking on the door rang again, and the woman begged again. Please, I know there's someone inside. We just want to go in and hide. If you don't want to, we'll leave tomorrow. Yeah. Our companion is injured and needs to be cleaned up. Please help him, I can give you money. Money, Lu Feng sneered in his heart, money is the most useless thing in this world now. The woman was still talking, and her voice began to tremble. Lu Feng saw them dressed very thinly during the day. It's strange not to shiver from the cold in such weather when they wear so little. All right. I've watched enough of the sad scenes, and he's even too lazy to bother with these few people. In the previous life, he was thrown onto a street full of zombies because he opened the door for others. He will never touch this kind of pit in his lifetime. Ding, a pleasant reminder sound rang in Lu Feng's mind. Special mission. Rescue 5 survivors to ensure they are not attacked by zombies for a week, and receive rewards after completing the mission. Yes. Lu Feng was slapped in the face, and he didn't expect to fight so fast. He really has an urge to pull out this unlucky system and beat it up. Bang bang bang. The women were still knocking on the door, looking at the cold and indifferent door in front of them. A woman next to them spoke out. I'll just let it go. If the zombies come back, it'll be terrible. No, this place is so sturdy, it must be safe inside, and there must be plenty of food. We can't give up. How can you guarantee that we will be safe when we enter? What if the person inside is a pervert? Let's talk first. Anyway, we have many people. If the situation is not right, we will subdue the people inside and occupy this place. Bang! A few people were discussing when suddenly something fell from above, causing them to scream uncontrollably. In the next moment, the deep sound of the land breeze came from the built-in-wall loudspeaker. Don't be afraid of being bitten to death by zombies, just keep shouting. A few people were first startled, then quickly covered their mouths. Seeing them no longer making noise, Lu Feng said calmly. Pick up what I just dropped and put it on. The women bent down in confusion, groped around on the ground, then grabbed a pack of ice and put it in their hands. Among them, the 2 women dressed in seductive clothes almost reflexively cursed. Abnormal. They are not holding any treasures in their hands, but a few pairs of handcuffs. Very good. Lu Feng was not angry. He was also worried that a few people wouldn't know how to use it, but from the tone of those 2 people, he guessed that they might have used it before, and it wasn't for that serious purpose. So he said coldly. Since you know what this is, you should be able to use it. What? A woman made an incredulous voice. Do you want us to wear this thing? Lu Feng sensed the woman's unwillingness and casually said. I don't force you, just put it on if you want to come in and give you a minute to think about it. It's a bit cold outside now and I need to go back to sleep. Please remind me that it will be even colder outside in a while. I hope you can find a shelter as soon as possible. Ah. Don't. I'll take it. I need to go in. A woman spoke in a frightened voice, as if worried that Lu Feng would really leave. Great. People without handcuffs are not allowed inside, otherwise don't blame the short crossbow in my hand for not recognizing people. The cold voice of Lu Feng shattered the last fantasies of several people. They were still thinking of rushing in together when the door opened a moment ago. Kaka kaka, a crisp sound of locking was heard, and Lu Feng saw through the surveillance footage that all the people were wearing the silver bracelets he had thrown down, and then pressed the button to open the door. Click. The side door opened, and with a heavy opening sound, a bright light also shone out from inside the door. The few people ran in as if they had seen a savior. Just as the last person entered the side door, a terrifying roar came from behind. Accompanied by mournful screams, the women exclaimed in terror. Zombies. It's zombies. Chapter 8. Jiuzhan Magpie Nest. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The strong fear instantly turned the woman's face pale, as if she didn't know what to do except for screams and screams. Puff. A muffled piercing sound rang out, and a crossbow shining with cold light pierced directly into the head of the zombie. A moment ago, the zombie was frantically writhing and roaring at several people, but now it suddenly turned silent and fell straight at the woman's feet. The palm of the fallen zombie happened to scratch the woman's thigh, and a black dirt appeared on her plump and tender thighs in an instant. It was unclear whether it was the zombie's blood or the mud on the ground. Ah! The sudden change frightened the woman into another commotion, causing her to quickly step back in panic. Several people crowded together inside the 4-meter wide gate. Ah! The shouting quickly attracted other zombies, and a terrifying roar came. Just as the scene was about to lose control, Lu Feng's figure walked down the stairs inside the wall. No matter how panicked the people behind him were, they raised their short crossbows and shot an arrow towards the door. Immediately after, the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground came from outside. Without hesitation, Lu Feng carried the crossbows behind him and reached out to pull up the zombie lying on the door frame. "I'll go. It's so heavy." A heavy feeling came from the wrist. Lu Feng couldn't help but curse inwardly, no wonder they all said it was heavy and lifeless. Isn't this zombie just fulfilling that sentence? Thinking of his exertion, he lifted the zombie straight up and glanced at a middle-aged woman in pajamas. Lu Feng secretly said that she couldn't hang it so heavy, and then kicked the zombie's belly. Gollum. After being kicked out, the body continued to roll towards the middle of the road due to inertia, and the obstacle was cleared. Without hesitation, Landwind closed the side door. Bang! His wall thickness is 3 meters, with several hollow designs in the middle, and the position of the door is also the same. There are 2 large doors on the inner and outer sides, and there is also a side door installed on each door for easy entry and exit. Just now, these survivors entered through the side door, but because the speed was too slow and the movement was quite loud, they attracted zombies. Fortunately, Landwind reacted quickly, otherwise the mission would have failed, and his walls and gates would have been packed with zombies. "You! Raise your hands!" Just as Lu Feng closed the door, a delicate reprimand echoed from behind. Lu Feng slowly turned around, his expression somewhat playful. "What? I just saved you guys and wanted to turn the tide. The white-eyed wolf isn't that fast, right? I didn't see clearly in the night vision system just now. It turned out that there were not 4 people coming in, but 5. At this moment, there was an extra woman holding a short crossbow facing Lu Feng. The other 3 women, 2 of whom were supporting the injured man, and one was holding a golf club in both hands, trembling towards Lu Feng's direction. "Stop talking nonsense." The woman raised her short crossbow and spoke sternly. "At such times, we cannot trust you, especially after you make us handcuff ourselves." Lu Feng calmly said. "Don't believe me? Then you can go out, I won't stop you." "Impossible," the woman immediately sternly refused, with a certain attitude of not leaving as soon as she came in. "Although there may be some pigeons occupying the magpie's nest, we don't want to make things too difficult. As long as you cooperate honestly and don't make any excessive moves, we can consider sharing this space with you. Go ahead and lead the way. We need to eat something." The 2 women in short skirts behind excitedly said when they heard that they could eat. I want to take a shower." The woman holding a golf club licked her lips. "Is there water? I'm almost thirsty, I want to drink some water." Right. Water, take a good shower. It's been 3 days since I last took a shower, and I'm almost smelling. Hee. Lu Feng listened to their excited discussion and began to enjoy the rest of his life in front of him. He couldn't help but laugh and say, "So. I let you in, not only are you ungrateful, but you also want to grab my things, use my things. If you don't want to stay, you can go out. We won't object." The woman holding the short crossbow was very vigilant. When she saw Lu Feng's hand rubbing against her shirt pocket, she raised the hanging short crossbow again. "Don't move. What are your hands doing? Bark." A crisp voice came, and a beam of flames lit up. Lu Feng stuffed a cigarette into his mouth and lit it. After taking a deep breath and spitting out a piece of smoke, he said faintly, "Don't be nervous. It's just a smoker, the weapon is in your hands. What can I do? And there are 5 of you, 4.5 people, I only have one. Lu Feng turned his head to look at the injured fitness man, who was wrapped in a white bandage and had been in a state of half asleep and half awake, so he corrected his words. The woman holding the short crossbow had a somewhat stiff expression. She always felt something was wrong, but couldn't explain it clearly for a moment. She could only urge Lu Feng again. Okay, no. Once it's okay, lead the way. Lu Feng nodded and then took a step forward. Several people saw that his movement was like a frightened deer, and they were so scared that they took 2 more steps back. Before the woman could speak, Lu Feng pointed to the door behind the few people and spread out his hand, saying, "Aren't you going in? How can you enter without opening the door?" His expression was both innocent and helpless, as if he were a complete victim. A group of people and Lu Feng changed positions and made way for the entrance. Lu Feng pointed to the instructions and went over on his own. After seeing the woman with a short crossbow nodding, he swaggered over. I saw him turn the door a few times and then start pounding hard. "What are you doing?" The woman was a bit angry. He didn't understand how long it took for Lu Feng to open the door, and now he is still knocking loudly. Lu Feng turned around and said helplessly, "Big sister. The door is stuck." He patted hard again as he spoke. Click. I don't know if it's really stuck, but with the last tap of the land breeze, the door also answered and opened. Wait. At this moment, the woman finally remembered something. From just now until now, she has been led by Lu Feng's nose, which makes her very uncomfortable. Lu Feng turned around and turned his head to inquire. "What's wrong?" She aimed her short crossbow at Lu Feng's chest. "Don't play tricks with me, I really know how to shoot." Lu Feng curled his lips and glanced at his 2 thighs in short skirts. He raised his eyebrows and said seriously, "Of course. Is the crossbow in your hands?" Seeing the woman's changing expression, Lu Feng quickly pointed to the door and said, "I'll lead the way." There are no lights on in the courtyard, but the general situation can still be seen clearly under the moonlight. The sound of the rushing river comes, giving people a sense of tranquility in their hearts. Wow, the woman wearing a short skirt couldn't help but sigh at the same time after entering the door. So there's still such a safe place, so we don't have to worry about zombies running in here in the future. Chapter 9. Surprisingly unable to shoot. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Of course, since the last time I knocked on the door, I've noticed that this is a good place. Maybe there were people inside who just pretended not to hear. This kid is really a thief. That's it. It almost caused us to be eaten by zombies outside, it's really not something. As they spoke, their tone became fierce, as if they had a deep resentment towards Lu Feng, completely different from when they begged him to open the door just now. Lu Feng only smiled faintly at the words of the 2 women and did not respond, but the 2 women became even more severe. "Hey! Kid, do you have water here? Let me take a shower first when you go in." Another woman disdainfully said. "Hee hee. Zhou, he just stole a few glances at us. I guess this guy must be a creepy guy." Zhou suddenly sneered and said. "Yeah. I saw it too, it's disgusting. If it weren't for Jiuzhan, we might have all been attacked by this sleazy man. Do you think it's autumn moon?" Gong Chuyue also sneered and said, So what? Now I'm not going to open the door for us, but if I serve sisters well, I might show him something." Ha ha ha, the 2 women burst into laughter and chattered incessantly. At this moment, Jiuzhan raised a short crossbow and suddenly said to them. "What about that person? Where did they go?" The fitness man who was fighting between the 2 women just now is not on their shoulders, no wonder they have the intention to joke here. "Oh my!" Gong Chuyue casually said. "We placed him by the flower bed and will get a cart or something inside to pull him out later." "What? You guys! Jiuzhan has some integrity. Zhou Li also said with a hint of displeasure. Jie. He's so big, he's almost exhausting us. There are no zombies in this yard, it's okay to leave them for a while. We can let him carry it on his back. At this moment, the girl with a golf club following behind a few people obediently reminded him. Yeah. Why didn't you say it earlier? Gong Qiuyue and Zhou Li openly complained about the girl. Hey. Kid, let you come and work. Where are the people? Zheng Shui was also surprised and quickly turned around to check. The courtyard in front was empty, and there was no shadow of the land breeze. She just lost her mind and the land breeze disappeared. There were almost no obstructions in the courtyard, where could the land breeze go? Bang bang bang. Suddenly, a muffled footstep sounded, and someone rushed towards them quickly. Zheng Shui almost reflexively turned towards the direction of the sound source, aiming and firing in an instant. Click. With a crisp collision sound, Zheng Shui's heart also sank. Surprisingly, the short crossbow did not strike. At this moment, the black shadow had already arrived in front of her. If it had been bumped into, there would have been no chance to get up. Without hesitation, Zheng Shui threw away the short crossbow in her hand and rolled towards the side, avoiding the fatal blow of the black shadow. Ah! 3 women let out a scream, turned around, and ran towards the flower bed. Gong Qiuyue and Zhou Li squatted directly under the flower bed, but because their skirts were too tight, they couldn't squat down for a moment. The 2 of them didn't care if they couldn't leave, so they pulled hard. On the contrary, no one was looking at them at night. The woman holding a golf club also followed behind them. In an instant, the team of 5 was left with only Zheng Shui fighting alone. When she stood up again, she already had an extra dagger in her hand. Zheng Shui clenched the dagger and only heard her scold. Stop it. Otherwise, I'll. Before she could finish speaking, the punch had already rushed towards her face. Zheng Shui let out a surprise, then leaned slightly and easily dodged the blow. She quickly regained her composure from the chaos just now, and was seen avoiding the attack in an orderly manner. Brush. In the gap between the shadow attack, she could even counterattack with the dagger in her hand. Her agile back was not like an ordinary woman, but more like a skilled fighter. Zheng Shui. Hit him. Hit him to death. Jing Jie, don't let him live. We are all restless when he is alive. Killing him is our place. 2 women shouted at the top of their lungs, their voices full of ferocity, as if they were 2 wicked women and venomous snakes. Now their ferocity was revealed. Zheng Shui was also shocked when she heard this, and she didn't expect the other party to suddenly become so cruel. Although she thought so, her hand movements were completely dissatisfied. Brush and brush. Taking advantage of Lu Feng's mistake once again, Zheng Shui stabbed 3 times in a row, all aimed at his non-critical arms and calves, apparently intending to make him lose his mobility. At the moment when Zheng Shui and Lu Feng intertwined, she felt a huge force hitting her abdomen, and her wrist holding the knife was also grabbed by a big hand. Then, she felt her body suddenly being pushed forward, and her whole body made an intimate contact with the ground. The abdominal spasm made her involuntarily bow up, but suddenly a heavy object pressed against her body, causing her elbow to ache and be locked in iron handcuffs. Ah! Listening to Zheng Shui's strange voice, the front courtyard was shrouded in shadows, and it could only be vaguely inferred that someone was moving, but the specific situation was not clear at all. Gong Qiuyue and Zhou Li exchanged a glance, and in the darkness, the 2 quickly reached a tacit understanding. Gu Jiejia. You go and take a look. Gu Jiejia was the woman holding a golf club, one of the women in the same car as Gong Qiuyue and Zhou Li. She only heard her say with some confusion. Why should I go? These 2 women asked her to go first for whatever she did. I don't know how many times this has been. When I entered the villa, I was almost killed by Jing Shui for asking her to explore the way, and she still remembers it vividly. Because you have a weapon in your hand. The two of them spoke in unison, as if discussing. Although somewhat reluctant, her naturally honest personality made her unsure how to refuse. The club in her hand was brought by Jing Shui when she went out, because Jing Shui believed that in such a situation outside, carrying a weapon, even an umbrella, would be more cost-effective than empty-handed. Okay. Okay. Ga Yaozi spoke reluctantly, but before she could even stand up, she was held down by a big hand, which scared her to the point of almost screaming. Lu Feng said in a cold voice. If you don't want to die, just shut up. Ga Yaozi's body trembled like an electric shock, and she quickly covered her mouth. I said, why don't you still? Gong Qiuyue and Zhou Li saw Ga Yaozi behind them motionless and impatiently turned around to urge him. However, as soon as they turned around, the urging voice got stuck in their throat and couldn't be heard anymore. Pop! Lu Feng slapped Gong Qiuyue in the face, and then another knife hit Zhou Li's neck. Please. Please. No, don't kill me. Chapter 10. No mutation and immunity are two things. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gong Qiuyue was knocked unconscious directly, while Zhou Li was so scared that she almost collapsed to the ground. Her whole body trembled and stuttered, pleading with Lu Feng to spare her. Hee. In the darkness came a sneer from the land breeze. Let you go. It seems like you two didn't say that just now. Oh. I remember, fight to death. Don't let him live. Is that a good suggestion? Stop it. You bastard. At this moment, Jing Shui's voice came from the ground and she said in a warning tone. The outside has turned into this, and you actually hurt your own kind. If you have a little conscience, you should help them instead of turning them away. I really admire you. Lu Feng suddenly changed his tone. Being able to maintain innocence in this damn world like the apocalypse, and your damn sense of justice. It's not easy, am I right, Officer Zheng? You. Jing Shui seemed to have been tapped, but suddenly fell silent. A beam of lights lit up, and through the light, Lu Feng walked over and picked her up. What? Do you think it's embarrassing? I can't save others, or I must feel uneasy watching them die in front of me, right? Especially as a police officer. You damn little person. Jing Shui seemed to have hit a painful spot, and her voice roared angrily at Lu Feng. It's because of people like you that I've been suspended. If I had a weapon in my hand, they wouldn't have died, but I only have a dagger. Even so, I'm still trying to help survivors. What about you? You have the ability but don't save people. Choosing to selfishly hide is a despicable villain. What? Lu Feng looked at Jing Shui with a gaze that looked like an idiot. Human nature is inherently full of selfishness and greed, and you actually made me magnanimous. Just a few minutes ago, my magnanimity was exchanged for being stepped on by you like a dog. If it weren't for my resistance, it would probably be me lying on the ground now, right? Lu Feng picked up Jing Shui, who was blushing with anger, and continued. The person who wanted to seize my shelter and supplies a moment ago is now farting rainbow farts at me. I'm sorry, I'm immune to this. As Lu Feng spoke, he pointed to the room where a corridor light was shining. Your bedroom. Click. With the latch of the lock spring locking, Lu Feng successfully locked several people into their rightful place. This is the side room of the villa, which was built to store food and winter supplies. However, before the supplies could be moved up, it was used as a detention room for Jing Shui and others. Leaving behind a few packets of cookies and a few bottles of water, Lu Feng did not even glance at a few women as he had imagined the scene full of animal desires. After arriving upstairs, Lu Feng threw the clothes stained with zombie blood into the garbage bag. He would never use these viral clothes again. After staying outside for half a day, he almost froze through, and I don't know if it's because he's close to the river. The temperature here seems even colder. At this time in his previous life, although it was relatively cold, he was able to barely survive by relying on a quilt, and now even though he was wearing thick autumn clothes, he still cannot keep warm well. It wasn't until Lu Feng immersed himself in the warm bathtub that he felt like he had come to life. Clicking on the system showed that the task was in progress, and the progress bar was already 1/7 complete. Lu Feng was also somewhat helpless, although he didn't know what reward he would eventually receive, he still silently worked as a bull and horse for this damn system. I hope it's not such a weird reward. I still don't know the usefulness of this skill from the last Eye of God skill until now. Wiping away the sweat from his face, Lu Feng picked up the red wine next to him and took a sip. It tasted unpleasant and had a smell of rags. I used to see wealthy people in movies and TV dramas like to make some red wine and champagne while taking a bath, but this time he didn't feel very good either. He picked up a red wine bottle and stuffed it directly into the toilet, completely ignoring the sign with the words 82 written on it. Sigh, we still can't live the life of a wealthy person. Lu Feng sighed and picked up a bottle of cola, saying that this kind of thing kills tadpoles. However, now soaking in a sauna and having another bottle of chilled cola is like living a fairy-like life. In this damn apocalypse, I don't even know if I can survive until tomorrow. Is something like a tadpole still important? I casually opened the surveillance screen at hand, and in the pitch-black room under the night vision system, several women sat together, while the fitness man was lying in the corner by himself. Except for Zheng Shui, Lu Feng did not let anyone else wear handcuffs, but he locked Gong Qiuyue, who had been knocked unconscious by him, in the next room alone. Looking at Zheng Shui's appearance, it should be living in this villa group with a solid family background and even working as a police officer, indicating that you either have lofty ideals or extreme vanity. From Zheng Shuigong's performance, it seems that she possesses both and perfectly blends them together. Being too proud is hypocritical, and her sense of justice will only harm more people. However, this has nothing to do with him. He came to experience life in the afterlife, not to transform fools. Lu Feng is giving final evaluations to several women. In order to save resources, the side room where several people were detained was not connected to heating. Lu Feng was worried that they might freeze to death, so after taking a shower, he still brought a few blankets. Seeing Zheng Shui's stubborn appearance, it seemed that he didn't intend to use it. Lu Feng just smiled and said, "The temperature will drop sharply by more than 10 degrees at night, and I don't mind if you want to die." Then he opened the adjacent room and wrapped a blanket around Gong Qiuyue. After checking to make sure there was still breath, he breathed a sigh of relief. "You can't die until the task is completed. She has already been knocked unconscious by you, why do you still treat her like this?" Lu Feng gave Zheng Shui a slanted glance. "Do you think I'm Superman? A slap can knock her unconscious until now without waking up. She's already infected." Infected. Judging from their expressions, Lu Feng knew that these post-apocalyptic novices didn't understand anything at all. It was a miracle that they dared to come out and live to the third day like this. "What are you talking nonsense about? If you haven't turned into a zombie, you're immune to the virus. Don't spread false intelligence and create panic here. What are you keeping her alone for? Don't think I don't know." Lu Feng looked at Zheng Shui, wondering what was going on with this woman. Although he had never done anything to them, Zheng Shui had always been against him, as if he had classified him with the bad guys from the beginning. Not becoming a zombie and being immune to viruses are completely different things. Such a simple truth cannot be distinguished. I don't know how your understanding ability is, but it's not important. When she starts to mutate and pounce on you, you will be grateful that I have locked her up alone.